Hello and welcome to the Goal Podcast, news and commentary from Gun Owners Action League, your leading voice for the Massachusetts gun owner.
I'm Garrett, across the table from Jeff. It's November.
It's
hunting season.
The clocks have changed.
The clocks have changed, and I'm completely gassed because I'm so old and I can't handle time changes. But it's hunting season. Like, officially, you had a successful week.
Yeah, so I deer number 2.
Nice.
Had to manage to squeeze that in my freezer this afternoon. Right
on. Tell us about it. You were up at the farm, right?
So I got a doe opening day. I got one arrow off at another deer like the second week, and then I haven't really seen anything since. And then, Monday I went out, parked my truck, and I was dragging in, starting to get to that part of the year where you can start using doe estrus.
Yeah.
And I was
starting to get crazy out there.
Dragging in doe estrus, and I can feel the wind blowing. And I swear to God, I was hearing bucks grunt and snort.
Oh, yeah?
Like that low.
Yeah. Here we go.
And hear the big, deep breaths. And
the chuffing and the...
terrifying in the woods in the dark. Yeah, you just, all right, be cool, be calm.
Be cool, man. Be cool.
Yeah, they don't tell you that when, you take that hunter's ed class. Like walking out to the,
it's a little creepy.
No flashlights. No, you're trying to be real quiet, and your heart's kind of going. And
yep, can be a bit creepy out there.
Yeah.
So you're blinded up and
8:30 or so. Turkeys. There's a bunch of turkeys that roost in a tree about 20 yards off from where I sit.
Yeah.
And they were going wild all morning. It sounded to me like either they were all fighting each other or a coyote had gotten in and was trying to snatch one of them up.
Cause a ruckus.
So they were making a hell of a lot of noise, which probably helped me out a bunch.
Yeah.
And then, this buck walks out of the tree line and starts moseying back and forth between the trees and everything. He just walked right into these shooting lanes that I have set up. Mm-hmm. And the beauty part of shooting into an apple orchard is you get to know which tree is which distance.
Yep.
So
you got natural range markers.
Let the arrow go right between,
Excellent.
double lung, and I think he made it about 40 yards total, 50 yards maybe.
Nice.
And then dead in the woods, dragged him out, gutted him.
Dirt nap.
Home by 2:00.
Excellent, man. Congratulations. So you're
Thank you.
So that's your first buck.
Yeah, so second deer, but this was the first one totally on my
your
own.
And so you're getting it mounted.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little Euro mount for the skull. I mean, it's nothing impressive.
It doesn't have to be,
but it's
your very first on your very own, and that's it's freaking awesome.
My blind location.
Yep.
I was hunting by myself. I put the arrow on target. I tracked the deer. I gutted it.
Gutted it out.
I dragged
it.
his heavy behind into the truck.
Humped him up into the truck.
I can't believe I didn't pull my back on that one. But
right on. Congratulations, man. That's freaking awesome.
But you guys had a hunting weekend up in...
We did, yeah. We went up to Jackman. Jim, John, Mark, and I were up there, rented a house, had a good time, 4 days up there. It's always a good time. And, anytime you can go somewhere and Jim's cooking, you're in pretty good shape.
Waiting for my invitation.
You're in pretty good shape. We were grouse hunting up there. I was successful. John was successful. So, overall, great trip. I love it up there. It's nice up there. We had a lot of deer up there, a lot of doe. We saw one buck, saw moose wild in the woods, which is, I'm a city boy. I'm from California. It was like the first actual live moose I've ever seen in real life.
So much bigger than you think they're going to be.
Oh, God. Yeah. And from, the other guys were like, that's not, it's impressive, but it's not even like that impressive a specimen. But I was like, wow, that's amazing, So my innocent little self, that was really cool. That was definitely a highlight. No, great time up there. So we come on back, we're back to the grind, to the grind.
Well, there's still a few more weeks. So deer season, the archery section of deer season goes up until the 25th.
Yep.
So basically up to Thanksgiving. Wild turkey, you can still go up to Thanksgiving, and then post Thanksgiving, so starting on the 27th, is deer shotgun season.
Shotgun, yep. So I'm going to break out the brand new M2 that you forced me to buy a couple weeks ago.
You poor thing.
unlimber that, take it out, and see if I can get it to produce for me for shotgun season. That's going to be awesome.
Oh, there you go.
Looking forward to that.
Best of luck.
Thank you. So what's going on in news? We did want to kind of touch on this because, I mean, how can you not, really? You know, it's a horrible subject, the Lewiston shooting. Terrible situation up there. Possibly, you know, one of the most terrible aspects of that is the fact that, you know, as usual, you know, it's almost like the refrain, right? Say the line, say the line. He was known to law enforcement. The guy that perpetrated the shooting was known to law enforcement, known to have a history. So it raises the question, you know, if you're going to implement all of these bans and red flag laws and stuff, then where were you on that one?
Again, it's the people being punished for the government's failures.
Basically, yeah, that's what it boils down to.
It concerns me how little details ended up coming out. How much information wasn't, because typically when you hear, okay, there's a manifesto and it has all of these check the box things that support
when
gun
things
control
fit the narrative, it's amazing how quickly they come out and get spread around.
Yeah.
It really is amazing how fast that stuff happens.
Well, we've seen even from previous ones, it's like pulling teeth, and even the shooting at the Catholic school, or the Christian school.
Yeah, the Covenant one.
Like pulling teeth trying to get that information out because it doesn't make the story the way the story wants to be presented. So with this one, the less information you get, the more it's like, okay, what are we trying to get to here? Yeah.
So, I mean, typically when something like this happens, you know, the dust isn't even settled yet, and we're already going, you know, ban.
For an individual that was, from my understanding and read of it, a prohibited person.
He was known. He had, you know, documented mental health issues.
Like federally prohibited person.
He should not have been in possession of a firearm, and yet the remedy to this is apparently to take mine away. You know, check out Goal's statement on it at goal.org. Yeah, it's, you know, between the anger and the sadness and the, you know, oh, look, there it is again, government failure. And yet, you know, they always want to punish the wrong people. It's a repeating pattern. It's horrible. It's horrible what happened, and it's horrible the way that people respond to these things in knee-jerk fashion.
The statement from Goal, I agree with you. Arguing over what type of gun the psycho can access is really, you know, it's putting the cart before the horse. The question needs to be, why is this mentally deranged person have unfettered access to the most sensitive parts of our society?
Yeah, you know, they should be getting care.
24-hour care. This is a person that came and said, I'm hearing voices that are telling me to kill people.
Yeah, and we're like, oh, all right.
And they went, oh.
You know, here, take some lithium, and, you know, we'll see you. Yeah, but you know, we've been pounding this drum. We've been pounding this drum for years, right? It's the whole mental health thing. Like the red flag laws, they say, bring them in. You're a danger to yourself and others. So we're going to take your guns away and then say, goodbye. Go home. You know, it's like, how is that helpful?
Go home to your ropes and pipes and
right, and
vehicles
gasoline
and
tanker
whatever
trucks and all the rest of it.
But again, gun-free zones, the target of choice.
Once again, the places that this individual shot up were self-imposed gun-free zones. I'm not familiar enough with the main laws to know whether it's like a place
force
that
of
sells
law
alcohol or whatever, you know, because there's some places that have restrictions on certain percentages of revenue from alcohol, etc. But this place specifically, the bowling alley had a sign on the front door that says, please don't carry in here.
Well, I think it's kind of telling that they did their best to remove any photos that showed that sign or remove any reference to it.
Weird, huh?
But the media continues to be complicit in supporting and celebrating violent offenders.
Doing their thing, splashing it all over the news.
And, you know, they always talk about how the AR is advertised and how evil and awful the gun industry is. But if you just read their quotes and read it from the perspective of someone that is intending to do harm. So these are all, you know, not exactly gun-friendly publications. The AR-15, like its military version, is designed to kill people quickly and in large numbers.
Yikes.
The cost of an AR-15 varies depending on quality. but typically priced at $400 and up.
Where can I get one of those?
The AR-15 style weapon is the most popular rifle in America with well over 11 million.
Sounds like common use to me. Anyway.
But AR-15 ammunition travels up to 3 times the speed of sound. So you can see why the AR-15's high-velocity ammo is the fear of every American emergency room.
Oh, my God.
They're
right.
They're advertising it to the crazy people. So that's NPR, Time Magazine, CBS.
And feeding the misconceptions of the general population who generally speaking, don't think any further than, guns bad. Guns don't make me feel good, therefore they should be banned. And, this feeds into that by blatantly lying. I mean, I don't believe for a minute that the people at NPR, Time, and CBS and all the rest of them, don't know. If they've been reporting on this long enough, they know the truth. And to my mind, it's intentional.
It's propaganda.
Yeah. Coming down from the heights of...
Well, there's a new scapegoat for the scourge of America's woes.
Yep.
So according to Herr David Hogg.
Oh, that guy. The guy that I go to for all of my gun-related news.
Well, guess who's at fault for this latest spate of violence? It's not the gun industry.
Oh, it's not this time.
No. Problem is the white women.
It's the white women this time.
He says we will never end gun violence until specifically white women in the suburbs stop voting for the Republicans who are endangering our schools and communities by flooding them with guns.
Wow.
So
that's just,
if you're white and you're a lady, this is your fault, according to David Hogg.
According to that idiot.
Because also apparently suburban white women unilaterally vote in one direction.
Yeah, right. God, I just, this guy, once again, blaming the wrong people for government's incompetence.
Well, he's educated at Harvard. And as we've seen, Harvard is just the bastion of decency and
of good faith and intellectual
honesty.
Right. So, yeah.
But the fact remains, it's a government failing.
That's what it boils down to. They had information on the guy. They knew what kind of shape he was in. They knew what he was capable of. He said what he was capable of. He said he told people what he was going to do.
Yeah. And off you go.
Yeah.
And then they did the thing that they said they were going to do. And now it's everybody else's responsibility to take fault for that person.
Yeah.
It's not the person who did the shooting. It's not the person that wrote it down. Yep. Intends to kill people. Off you go.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It's everybody else's fault. The people who just want to be left alone to exercise their rights and have their, have their property in peace and do all of the legal things that you do with, 11 million of these rifles, which that number's actually low. I think it's closer to 20 million rifles.
Depends on who you ask.
But even if it was 11 million rifles, what percentage of those are being used for evil purposes? And yet you need to ban them all?
And they openly admit it's rifles are so rarely used in any crime period.
Right.
And then you start whittling it down category by category by category.
And then
you say,
sub-percentage of that sub-percentage of that sub-percentage, yeah.
The 1% of 1% of 1%.
Right. Which is almost nothing. And
but it's a common pattern.
Horrible, but still.
But it's a very common pattern of government's lack of ability to do their job.
Mm-hmm.
Because what was referenced the entire time that HD, whatever number they attached to it, House Bill 4135-2.
Yeah.
What were they all referencing?
The secret ghost bill.
They were referencing the shooting that happened in Holyoke.
Yeah.
Well, one of the people arrested this is just one of the people's criminal records. 2014, domestic assault and battery, intimidation of a witness.
Mm-hmm.
So, geez, I wonder how this individual answered question 4 on the LTC application. 2017, arrested and charged for carrying a firearm and ammunition without a license and served time for it.
Yep. Which is already prohibiting factor.
2018, arrested and pled guilty to assault and battery. And that was just that past... pled guilty to it this past May. October 6th, 2023, he's arraigned from his hospital bed on these murder charges for this lady.
Yep.
One of the topics of his arraignment was revoking his bail from being arrested 2 weeks prior.
For
Possession
roll.
of firearms and ammunition without a license and drug possession.
I'm seeing a pattern emerging here. If this guy's not careful, he's going to lose his license to carry.
Jeez.
You know, I try to make light of it, but it really isn't funny. This guy is a career criminal.
Over and over and over.
Over and over and over and over again. He finally goes big time and you know, commits this horrible, horrific murder. And yet, you know, I'm the one who's responsible for it.
Firearms, ammunition, and drug possession. 2 weeks later, gets in a gunfight and kills somebody.
Yeah.
And the response is not to blame that person.
No.
And I'll refrain from using the language I want to use. Let's not blame that person. Let's blame everybody else who had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's take their rights away because this guy ignores the law. You know, and everybody who has an ounce of rationality knows that even if they did pass all those laws, right, this guy or somebody like him is just going to ignore him anyway. So what are we doing here?
That's part of the reason why it's like, well, I'm just not going to comply with these laws anymore because they treat criminals better than they treat the rest of us.
It's
if you're a criminal,
it's nuts.
Unlimited second chances, unlimited support.
Yeah,
that's all
you
fine.
get the benefit of the doubt in all cases.
You'll never be raked over the coals in the news.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never be persona non grata in the eyes of the state.
I just, you know,
this individual, let's say, for example, they serve some time, get out from on some program or whatever, which is probably what's going to happen.
Possibly,
because for sure, the defense, this isn't this individual's fault. It's society's fault. It's everybody else's fault. But it's
bad upbringing, and he can continue to do, to commit mayhem.
But if you sell more than 4 boxes of ammunition, sir,
that's right.
You
go to prison.
Need to be on the state paperwork and on the state rolls,
unbelievable,
so that they can come and inspect your stuff because now you're a dealer in the eyes of the state.
And that's where we are. You know, this stuff is so predictable. It's infuriating. I'm like not capable of really articulating how infuriated I am by this stuff. I want to like slap somebody and say, listen, you know, really, this is, I don't know.
When you see over the course of history and you go, how did something that existed successfully for so long fail? This is how.
Yeah. The
inmates are running the asylum and we call it legislature.
Yeah.
And
so speaking of the inmates, there's no real update on 41, whatever, where the hell are we? 4139 now, after its like 5th or 6th iteration. There's no update. Obviously, he's passed the House. Michael Day has been burning up social media over the last couple of weeks, patting himself on the back and trying to pump up, you know, the provisions of this bill as if they do some kind of public good, which is nonsense. They're all garbage. So at any rate, the bill is, as we know, being handed off to the Senate, and the Senate President Spilka has said that they want to do something in 2024, but we don't know what, we don't know when. Could be as early as January, could be as late as the end of the session, or it could be not at all. We really have no idea. So we're watching carefully, we're listening, but the bill is in the same place where it was a couple weeks ago. So there it is. We're watching.
Call your senators.
Yeah, this is the time to start leaning on your senators.
Call them, start getting in their ear now.
Mm-hmm.
Let them know, hey,
this is baloney. Yeah. So one of the cases that's making its way around, it's not like in our little official list of stuff to talk about today, but it was either today or yesterday or something. Chicago, Illinois in general, the court up there found that there is no substantial difference between the M16 and the AR-15.
Great. So why doesn't the military switch? AR-15s are a lot cheaper.
They say you can ban AR-15s because this court is not, convinced that
M16s aren't even banned.
Well,
you can own an M16.
The point of argument is the fully auto M16. Select fire M16 versus the civilian AR-15. This court decided that there's no substantial difference between them because the muzzle velocity is the same, the cartridge is the same, therefore they're the same, therefore they're the same rifle, which means that AR-15s can be banned as machine guns in this twisted non-logic of theirs. So
Well, so M16s.
I was reading that and I'm going, huh.
Well, so
interesting.
This is what
I mean. We're used to these courts being able to do mental gymnastics, right? They come up with what they want to do, and then they will literally go to anything, to any lengths, to bend over backwards to make to invent some rationale that will get them where they want to go. We see it over and over again, like Katana. It's their modus operandi, right? That's what they do.
Well, if there's no difference, then why did the military specify the changes they wanted made from the AR platform to the M16 designation?
I don't know. Apparently it's the same rifle.
Set of curiosity.
So anyway, I get in depth in that, but this I'm sure crazy. That eventually is going to get up to the Supreme Court.
The M16 is not banned. It's an NFA item, so you just have to go through the thing. You have to get you have to have the correct paperwork in place and pay a tax and so on and so forth. But you can absolutely own an M16. You can own one in Massachusetts. You just have to get the machine gun license.
You have all the right paperwork, yes.
So really, and this is the infuriating part, is there's not much you can't do in Massachusetts so long as you pay enough money. If you pay the government enough money, they'll let you do it.
Yeah, if you know the right people.
Yeah. So make sure you make the donations to the right people and then pay the fee. And you get your license, and you can have M16s, you can have all sorts of wild stuff. But they're talking about banning ARs.
Yeah,
they're not talking about making them an NFA item. They're talking about a full-out ban of a semi-automatic version of an automatic rifle. Is their argument?
Yeah, that's their rationale. Is that it's a machine gun subject to the same.
So ban the semi-autos and keep the full autos.
I don't know. All right. In real Supreme Court news, talks a couple of Supreme Court cases because things are happening. U.S. v. Rahimi was argued in court today as we record this. The decision is expected by July 2024. I think maybe like when the decision actually comes down, we can do a deep dive into it because there's some real ramifications there for like dangerousness and restricting the rights of people, disfavored classes and stuff like that. I have to say, as much as it pains me that I was not impressed with the arguments from Rahimi's lawyer. I don't think that he did a good job. He came off as underprepared. He came off as, how do I want to say this? He was so focused on his one issue. Okay. He had a very specific idea, right? Mm-hmm. Very narrow place that he wanted to get to. But in trying to get there, he was bending over backwards and saying that all this other stuff is cool. No, that's cool. You can do that. And I'm like wanting to shout at my computer, go, no, don't say that, you idiot. You're supposed to be on our side. It's like he had Elena Kagan was like, you sound like you're running away from your own argument here, Oof. And he kind of was. And
Kagan's smart enough to know that if someone's digging themselves a hole like that, you just let him keep digging.
Let him play it out. Yeah, it was one of the things that he said was like he was defending the idea of having no due process when it comes to ERPOs. No, there's no due process for that. And Roberts and Alito were like, excuse me? What did you just say?
Well, that's correct now, but that's what needs to change.
Yeah, but he was like defending the idea. Why? Because he wanted to look at C2, right? He wanted this other rationale. That's what I'm saying. He was like so laser focused on this one rationale that he had. He was like hand waving everything else and saying, oh, that's cool. Yeah, we don't worry about that. That's fine. It's okay for the government to do that stuff as long as they don't do this. So
that's why it's when people talk about the answer to everything being sue, take it to the Supreme Court, is
you can't count on that, man.
You can't unring that bell.
Nope.
So if you go in there and you
blow it,
you have an off day.
Yeah.
That's it.
So, I'm hoping that cooler heads prevail and that the Supreme Court basically looks at it with some rationality, and decides narrowly. Like I said, we can dive into we actually talked about this several episodes back. So if you really want to know what the case is about, do that. And then when the, when the decision is rendered, we'll probably dive into it a little bit more because there's, like I said before, there's real ramifications. But yeah, I've said before here that I don't get a real good, warm feeling about this case.
It was never a great case.
It was never a good case. The guy is not sympathetic. He's a terrible, plaintiff. He's not a good situation all around. And I'm worried that the Supreme Court's going to use this case as an excuse to back off of Bruin.
Or at least, give a little bit of a makeup call.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, hey,
we don't know. I don't know.
We'll see.
Reading the tea leaves.
But they also the Supreme Court agreed to hear the Garland v. Cargill case.
Yes.
That's the challenge to the Trump administration directing the ATF to put a ban on bump stocks.
Yeah. Where as you remember, our the quote unquote most pro 2A president ever told the ATF, find a way to ban these bump stocks without, getting Congress involved. That's what he said to him. It's on the record. So after, as we know, after the 2017 Las Vegas shooting, he basically had them administratively rule that bump stocks were machine guns, and therefore generally prohibited under federal law. So, and also, as we know, this rule was a direct reversal of an earlier rule that the ATF.
Yeah, their technical experts had published several times.
Right, said these are not a machine gun. Machine guns, period. Until it's politically, until we need a political excuse to make them machine guns, in which case, yes, now they're machine guns. So, yeah, both the Fifth and the Sixth Circuits on separate cases struck down that rule. So now it's sitting in front of the Supreme Court, and they agreed to hear it. So I'd be interested to see how that goes. So they actually, they granted it cert last week, but they granted it cert for this session. So I expect that they're going to hear it
probably pretty
soon. Shortly. Yeah, they'd have to hear it pretty soon.
But I mean, you have multiple circuit courts that are ruling different ways.
That's why we have the system set up the way that we do.
Yeah. Also, Supreme Court granted cert for National Rifle Association v. Vulo.
Yeah, this is a First Amendment case.
So this is the NRA is challenging the former head of the New York Department of Financial Services for urging banks to cut ties with pro-firearms organizations and consider them as reputational risks. And I'm putting scare quotes around that.
Scare quotes, yeah.
And the NRA is arguing that position amounted to a threat.
Yeah.
And using New York State financial services sector as an implied threat. Saying, hey,
when the state agency says, hey, Mr. Banker, I'm not saying, you shouldn't do business with them, but I'd like you to really consider your position on this. Wink, wink. What's your reputation going to look like? Wink, wink, wink. So, yeah, it's goddamn right. It's an implied threat. Of course it is. So the NRA is arguing this on First Amendment grounds.
Freedom of assembly.
So they granted cert. We'll see how it comes out. Other federal shenanigans. Senator Warren, our very favorite Senator Elizabeth Warren, and a representative congressman out of California by the name of Robert Garcia. They're pushing what they're calling the, quote, Ammunition Modernization and Monitoring Oversight Act, or
AMMO.
The AMMO Act. Of course. God,
not only do they need to get rid of omnibus stuff and go to single issue legislation, they need to stop this
crap.
Just the cringiest of dad joke names. But this is the new buzzword for them, though, is the whatever it is, it's the Modernization Act.
Yeah.
We're modernizing the law to
That's right. We're always positive buzzwords. We're bringing it into the future.
But they're trying to
good thing.
Weasel in this idea that we're not really changing anything. We're just modernizing. Right. We're updating.
We're keeping up with the times. Yeah. That's all.
This isn't anything new. It's just a little, now your car has heated seats. It's still a car.
That's right. It's a feature. So anyway, this nonsense seeks to require background checks for ammunition purchases. And of course, it sets limits on how much ammunition people can buy within a 5-day period. It's the standard BS, the kind of thing you expect from Lizzie Warren and the Democrats out of California, frankly. It's pretty unlikely to pass the House the way that things are right now. It's not going to go anywhere, but
unlikely.
But it does give a sense, right? It gives a flavor of what people are thinking about in the direction that they're going.
It's how all the stuff starts.
That's right.
And then it gets filed next year, and then the year after that, and then something happens, and they say, when they talk about the ammunition stockpile that somebody has,
right. The arsenal, the stockpile,
the weapons cache, where it's like, oh, they had 2 revolvers and 500 rounds. And
you're like, ooh, that's a range day, man. That's not a stockpile. Are you kidding?
It's a busy morning at most.
Yeah, right. So anyway, there's that.
Industry news. So getting away from
from
the nonsensical legislation.
Yeah.
Ruger seems to be in a little bit of a sales slide. So
NSSF is reporting that.
So according to the Reload, Ruger has posted a 13% drop in sales since this quarter last year, a drop the company says is due to reduced demand across the industry.
Yeah, so they're citing reduced demand since 2020, right? The peak that we hit in 2020, 2021. So that 13%, I think, amounts to about $18 or $19 million for them.
It's a good chunk of money.
It's a decent chunk of money.
But that's a natural, you get those big peaks and then everything comes off and now everybody has all these. And the other problem they run into is when people are in the quick acquisition.
In the heat.
They buy a lot of things that don't necessarily make sense for them.
Yeah. Yes.
Just because,
right. Just because they can get.
I need something. This is the only thing that's available, and it's in a caliber. That's how people end up buying revolvers, and it's like I got a 6-inch revolver and 327 Federal, and that's the only gun I own.
Yeah. So this, I was looking. I'm kind of looking at like their portfolio and their catalog and stuff. So to me, it seems like they're taking a conservative tack, right? They're not really innovating so much. They're just like improving and kind of updating their existing stuff. Like they've come out with 3 or 4 new lever guns or updates to their existing lever guns, the Marlin guns, which is great. That's cool, but it's not, it's not going to set the world on fire. Between that and like the Super Wrangler that came out that we talked about before. So that's kind of like what they're really doing is updating. They're taking their
modernizing. Enact modernizing Sturm Ruger.
There you go. Enact modernizing Sturm Ruger. I like it.
But it's always seemed that what Ruger really does well, I think they make really good revolvers.
Mm-hmm.
Their 22 caliber stuff, generally speaking, is pretty good.
Yep.
It's the other parts of the market they seem to have struggled in.
Yeah. I mean, Marlin makes great. They make great lever guns. Those are great
Marlin
guns.
makes great rifles.
Yeah. So they're really focusing. They're really focusing their energies there instead of, really innovating in like the handgun area. And it's like, I guess I kind of get that. I mean, how far can you really innovate in the plastic striker fired pistol area?
Yeah, I think that there's going to have to be a major technological shift. I think for somebody to really separate themselves from the pack in a huge way.
Yeah. But you found a piece, something out of Hornady.
So Hornady released their new ammunition lines. Yeah. And one of the ones they released kind of caught my eye, and it's the 22 ARC. So 22, it's a 22 caliber. ARC ARC stands for Advanced Rifle Cartridge.
I looked at this. It looks cool.
So they are marketing this for predator hunting, target shooting, varmint hunting. So this is taking a run at the 22-250, which for the folks that maybe aren't familiar with that cartridge, has kind of been the benchmark varmint hunting cartridge for more than a minute.
Yeah.
But the 22-250 is really a product of its time. This is kind of, again, modernizing.
That's the theme. That's going to be the title of this podcast.
But the 22 ARC, the advantages it has over the 22-250. It's a shorter overall length cartridge, which means you can use a shorter action.
Yep.
It has
stubby looking.
Little short. Yep. So it's the same overall length as the 223 Remington. So this is pitched to run not just in a bolt gun, but can run on air patterned rifles.
That's like, according to Hornady, that's their market. That's like specifically they wanted to design it for AR platforms with the, optimized for the 1-7 twist and all that,
because
all
it's
that
such
stuff.
a popular and ubiquitous gun.
Right. Because it's a gun in so much common use, they want to chamber, their newer. Yeah.
They designed a whole cartridge around being compatible with that particular platform. Yeah. But the big advancement, I think, is in the bullet technology. So they're saying that even though this is running a lower muzzle velocity at the muzzle, downrange, because it has such a better ballistic coefficient, they get higher velocities downrange than 22-250, less wind deflection, better energy transfer, and it's outperforming the 22-250 at the ranges
so
they're looking at.
So they're like, if you love the 22-250, you're going to get that performance or a little bit better out of your AR platform.
Yeah. So
they're like tagline for this thing.
So if you geek out on long range precision shooting and all of that stuff, then this might be a decent cartridge to get into.
Might be the one.
Unlike a 6.5 Creedmoor or one of those more traditional long range precision cartridges, this is designed to run off an AR platform. So you're not necessarily having to get into.
They optimized it for the AR platform. Yes. It is designed for the AR platform. Yeah.
So it's an option. It's out there. It's launched. So
looks cool. I think you should buy one so we can try it.
For all the varmint hunting that I do.
Oh man, it's November, and we know what that means. It's it's actually, as we record this tonight, it's special election night here in Massachusetts. And there are, I think, 24 or so cities that have local elections going on. But what we also are is almost exactly 1 year out from the presidential election.
Yeah, and if you'd noticed, there's not a lot in the news about it.
Isn't that weird?
Crazy.
Isn't that weird? So
I remember an election or two ago, it was
where it was all news all the time.
2 or 3 years of election
solid coverage
leading up to.
So wanted to do like a quick thing, right? So the field of candidates is starting to shape up, right? And I came across a news story from ABC News, and I filled it in with my own information as well, but kind of a rundown of where all of the, I don't want to say major candidates are or major party candidates are, but these are the candidates that people know about. There's a ton. I mean, I think Kanye West is running again. But I don't have him in this list. So, so it's all kind of like the names that people know, and where they claim to stand on guns. So
where they claim to stand.
Right. Let's clarify that. Where they claim to stand on guns.
People claim all sorts of stuff in an election season.
So let's start with the incumbent, Joe Biden. Obviously, he's a Democrat. I mean, there's no surprise here. We all know what his deal is. Somebody, walks up behind him and pulls his string and he goes, "Ban assault weapons." Right. He's like one of those see and say. Right. Remember the see and say, the thing that goes around, and the cow says, right. Cow says, moo. Joe Biden says, ban assault weapons. So universal background checks, red flag laws, pretty much every other, anti-right stance that you can think of. You can, he's pretty reliable on that. Let's see. RFK Jr. running as an independent. He has said that he doesn't believe that there's anything that can be done to reduce ownership of guns, which doesn't sound very much like an answer to me.
Yeah, that's one of those. What do you think? Well, and then they give you what everybody else.
I don't think anything can be done about it. It's like, well, okay, but what do you want? What? But what are you actually saying here?
I mean, he's on the record saying that while in his words, he's not planning on taking away anybody's firearms, but if there was a consensus where both parties voted a majority to do that, he would sign the bill. So now I'm a little curious, is that him saying that, his role as president is to sign what the legislature does, or what?
It sounds a bit wishy-washy to me. I mean,
That's running as an independent.
Well, yeah, right.
What's your position on both sides of the fence?
That's right. I'm trying to fill whatever mold, Also, up Marianne Williamson, she ran last time. She's, I expect her to drop out in the next few months, but she's a Democrat, ran last time. She's reliably pushing for assault weapons bans and universal background checks. She's on the record over and over again. No surprise there.
But on team red tie.
Yeah, the red ties. Donald Trump claims to be, quote, the most, he loves his superlatives, right? Claims to be the most pro-gun president ever.
Okay, well, the Supreme Court's listening to a challenge of his firearms policy.
That's right. They're hearing it this session, as a matter of fact. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's one for me. But sorry, you directed the ATF to start redefining all the laws, and now we're in the position we're in now.
Yeah.
Between bump stocks and frames of receivers and who gets a dealer. Like, you opened
all those things. Yeah.
You opened Pandora's box, and you said, look at the great job I did.
Yep. So there it is. Ron DeSantis, Republican, says publicly that he would defend the Second Amendment if elected, and actually putting his money where his mouth is, he did sign the permitless carry law in Florida this spring. So for whatever that's worth, he signed that bill in Florida.
You'd have to get the Department of Justice to, respect the law. I think that's going to be the heavier lift.
Nikki Haley, Republican, said the GOP debate in August, she said that she doesn't trust the government with red flag laws, which I like that approach.
Agreed.
Right? Not only this is bad, this is good, but I don't think the government has the capability of doing the right thing. So I appreciate that stance.
Then Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, he says he's vocally opposed to removing firearms from law-abiding people, and he goes so far as to say the Second Amendment is the one that protects all the others.
Yeah, he says that publicly. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know. Is it just a talking point that he read on
Talking Point True Believer
guns.com, or is it or does he really believe that? I don't know. I hope so.
Well, I'll save it for the end. Chris Christie supported parts of the so-called Bipartisan Safer Communities Act 2022.
Yep.
Regarding red flag law funding, but he also says that banning guns isn't the answer.
Yeah. So for somebody who's such a, for somebody who's a Republican, I mean, he is from Jersey, so I guess that colors things. But he's not. He doesn't have a long reputation of being friendly to gun people. Let's just say that.
Long reputation not being friendly to a lot of people. Heard some stories that he's not the most cordial individual to meet. But Tim Scott,
yep,
he says that gun violence is due to the epidemic of mental illness across the country. I happen to agree.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it has more to do with untreated mental illness and the constant idea that if you have mental illness, you're perfect just the way you are, and let's not change you. Let's change everything
let's change
to fit around you.
Yeah.
Which I think is a little dangerous because while 90% of the people are fine, it's the 10% that don't need to be told that the voices in their head are normal.
Yeah. So, yep. And then Doug Burgum, he's a Republican. I have to admit, I started watching, I saw his commercials on TV. I'm like, who the hell is that guy? Because he doesn't say. But turns out he's a Republican. He's governor of North Dakota. And he has declared it a 2A sanctuary state.
Nice.
Very good. I mean, North Dakota is pretty solidly pro 2A. And I guess he's got a part of that. So, that's the single issue there anyway. And Asa Hutchinson, another also ran Republican, says he won't sign an assault weapons ban or federal red flag law because he doesn't think they would pass both chambers of Congress, which sounds like another non-answer to me.
That depends on which way the pendulum swing. We've seen majorities, supermajority. It's
right.
Who knows?
He didn't say, I'm not going to sign an assault weapons ban because I think it's bullcrap. He said it's probably not going to pass the House. So
it's less
It's
of a
a
principled
non-answer.
argument and more
Right.
of a
Yeah, right.
circumstantial argument.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
that's-
probably won't have to anyway, so sure.
So, yeah,
I'll say
right.
that I won't.
So it doesn't sound very. I'm not. It's not a convincingly pro 2A argument.
But even when was the last time an elected president who claims to be pro Second Amendment really did something
right,
largely
actually,
beneficial for the firearms owning community that stuck
Mm-hmm.
more than 2 minutes after the change of office?
Yeah. No, that's a fair statement. I don't trust any of these people.
So
to do right.
there's the part of me that's like, okay, great.
You know, you
I
talk.
appreciate your
right?
position,
Yeah.
but you still have an ATF that's running around just making up rules willy-nilly.
Yep. Making up shit as they go along.
You have a Department of Justice that's almost declared culture war against anybody who wants to have any independence from the government at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when was the last time one of these pro Second Amendment people running for power did anything
And actually followed up.
did something for the firearms community?
Yeah, I don't know. When was the last time somebody threw an executive order in saying, you know what, ATF, you can't actually do that? Or, directed the ATF to
Well,
say,
even if they direct them to, hey, lay off of this for 4 years,
No.
okay, then 4 years later, the
Right.
pendulum swings back the other way.
yeah.
But
So, yeah.
But typical to any large scale government organization, once something goes into place, it never goes away.
Oh, yeah.
It never really
yeah.
goes away.
Yeah. I know.
So even though they might say, all right, we'll put a Band-Aid on this paper cut, you still have 5,000 other ones, then that the Band-Aid's just going to get ripped off. So
there it is.
I would love to see a candidate that says that they're pro Second Amendment that actually,
Right. Once they get elected,
did
actually
something
follows
about
through
it.
with Yeah. So there they are. So we're gonna be following the presidential election as the season gets wound up. That's terribly exciting, isn't it?
I'm just going to go out in the woods.
Oh man, speaking out in the woods, yeah, I'm looking forward to unlimbering that M2. So as I alluded to earlier, you dragged me out of the house by the scruff of my neck. You dragged me all the way down to Cape Gunworks, and you forced me on pain of embarrassment to purchase that Benelli M2 that I've been looking at for months.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bought it.
I am too. I like it. I like it a lot. I wish that 20 gauge sabos were a little easier to find, because it is a rifle barrel slug gun. But no, I like it a lot. And range report, we took it out and I got 5 shots through it.
Yeah, we got a whole box of ammo into that thing.
I got like 5 shots into it, and the optic exploded. Bang, bang, bang.
Well, I wouldn't say exploded.
Well, all right. Something broke loose inside of it. We're trying to get it sighted in, and honestly, I don't feel comfortable in saying that we got it sighted in, because I only had a few rounds through it, and then smash something inside my my Vortex Crossfire. Is that what yeah, Crossfire 2. Let go some kind of retaining ring in there, and it fell right across the line of sight. So I'm like, well, that's the end of this. That's the end of this sight in. I will say, however, that happened on, what was it, Saturday morning.
Yeah, that was Saturday morning.
Sunday afternoon, I sent an email to Vortex's customer service. 8 o'clock Monday morning, I had an email with an RMA number on it saying, send it in, we're going to take care of it. So,
hey,
all right. Kudos. So I packed it up, I sent it, and then like 2 days later, I had another email saying, we got it. It's underway. We're going to get it back to you as soon as possible. So
is this a repair on the existing scope, or is this they're going to send a new one?
Don't know yet. The latest communication from them that I have is that they have it and that they're taking a look at it. So, kudos to them. They didn't raise a stink. It's Vortex, right? They got a great reputation for this stuff, and so far, that reputation is deserved. They make good stuff, and so far their customer service has been great. So I'm sure everybody will be waiting on the edge of their seats for the next time to hear.
But in the meanwhile, we've got another optic on there, and it's just a matter of sighting that in, and then
you
hopefully
you loaned me a Strike Eagle to throw on there, so I'm gonna, so I'll have something for the season, which is awesome. I appreciate that. So I want to get that sighted in, and then get ready for whack 'em and stack 'em deer season coming up in just a couple of weeks.
Just take the bow with you. Go archery.
Here you go archery.
Yeah.
Go archery and shotgun season.
Nice and quiet.
Yep. Stealth. Right? Tuck and roll. Serpentine. It's really cool. That's it for today. Thanks for listening in. Be sure to subscribe to the Goal Podcast. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Goal Podcast MA. Check out the new YouTube channel at the Goal Podcast, or on Twitter at Goal Update.
To join Goal, visit goal.org and click the Join Renew button on the top of the homepage.
If you have a topic you think we should cover, if there's something going on in your club or your town, or if you have a question for the mailbag, shoot us an email at goalpodcast@goal.org.
The Goal Podcast is a production of Gun Owners Action League of Massachusetts. The views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of Goal, its staff, or affiliates.